Hey everyone, welcome to today's video. My name's Stephanie and today I have a ton of cute and spooky nail art tutorials for you. So I love spooky season mainly for the nail art, but in case you missed it, I did do a video of my favorite Halloween shades to wear if you are more of just a full color mani type of person. But this video is dedicated to anybody who's interested in trying some fun nail art for the season. I would like to think that these are pretty beginner friendly. Maybe some of them have a little extra details that might make it a little bit more intermediate. But as always, I will have everything that I use in the description box. Of course, you can just use whatever tools you have on hand. A lot of them you could just use a regular toothpick for. It might take a little bit longer, but if that's what you have, then you just gotta work with what you got. But the most important thing is to just remember to have fun with these looks. So without further ado, let's just get into the designs. So this first look is easily one of my favorites that I've done the past couple of years. This is a really easy half chevron, half spiderweb type of design. So for this look, I'm going to be using a purple, but you can obviously use any color you want. I've done this before in a few variations, but I'm going to be using the nail polish brush to paint a diagonal stripe across the tip. You can also use a detail brush if that'll give you a straighter line, but using a detail brush anyway, that's what you're going to use to create the spiderweb portion. So I'm starting by painting a diagonal line across in the other direction and then doing a shorter line painting down the side of my nail, and then one final line kind of bisecting those two. So you'll have 3 lines. You can do as many as you want, but I think 3 is a good number to get the spiderweb design across. And lastly, you want to create these little curved lines in between the previous ones that we've drawn to really finalize the spiderweb look. So I absolutely love this design so much. It's super chic, and again, I love how you can change it up depending on the colors that you use. This next one is such a cool one because it's this black smoky spiderweb jelly look that I think is just so cool. You can use any jelly that you want, but I am going to be using this black jelly from Cirque. I feel like this look is just so perfect because it also matches my shirt. But I saw this design a couple of years ago. I just can't remember the original person. But anyway, I'm going to be building my black jelly base in 2 coats just because I thought having 1 coat would have been a little too sheer. But yeah, I just love how this looks on its own already. But to do the spiderwebs, we're going in with a black polish and a long striping brush. Obviously, if you just have a shorter one, that's totally fine. You'll just have to kind of go over the lines a little bit more. So the easiest way, I think, is to create the vertical line going down the center of your nail and then creating an X on top of that. And then lastly, doing this horizontal line down the middle. And the final step, of course, is creating those curved lines to really give that spiderweb look. Some of my lines came out a little wonky and thicker than others, but it's fine. It doesn't have to be perfect because we're going to be topping it with a jelly anyway to kind of obscure it a little bit. So I really loved how this looked. When I first recreated it a couple of years ago, it was a little bit darker and harder to see. And honestly, I'm not sure which one I like more. Another version of spiderwebs that I love is just this classic corner design. You can easily paint it in whatever corner is easiest for you, but I love the contrast of using a soft jelly base, especially a muted one like Cirque's Dove Jelly, and then also using a black reflective glitter for that sparkle. It's kind of like spooky, but a little glam. So I started by painting a couple of coats of my base color and then went in with KB Shimmer's After Midnight, which is this black reflective polish that is so gorgeous. And then again, going in with my detail brush, I'm starting from the very corner of my nail and creating these lines coming out of the same point. I like to draw about 5 lines and have them go from like shortest on the outside to longest in the middle. And lastly, creating those little curved lines connecting all of them for that spider web look. So this is such a fun one to do where you can alternate the webs on different corners of your nail, do a little mix and match, or even have a spider hanging off of one. Another one of my absolute favorite ways to wear spiderwebs is as this cute little half moon design. Oh my gosh, I am obsessed. So I'm gonna start by using a multi-chrome. This one is from Cirque and not around anymore. I'm so sorry, but just let's take a moment to appreciate this one. It wasn't released as a Halloween color, but I think it's so perfect. But since this base is dark, we are gonna go with a white polish this time to let those spiderwebs really pop. So for the half moon shape, I start by creating the line down the center first, and then creating a V shape, and then lastly the horizontal lines at the base of the cuticle. You could even just start with the vertical and then horizontal, and then do the diagonal ones lastly if that's easier for you. And of course, lastly, we are creating those little curved lines to really finish this look off, and I am just so in love with this. As you probably know, I'm just a sucker for a half moon design, and this little spiderweb version is so cute. Next, we have probably one of the easiest looks to create for spooky season, the classic blood drips. And this one is more of a pink glam sort of version where I'm using Bitten Jelly as my base color, which is this really pretty magenta shade that is so gorgeous on its own, and it deepens up with the more coats that you do. And then for the blood drips, I'm going to be using this really dark and sparkly red from Painted Polish, and then I'll create a dot around the center of my nail and then just drag it straight up towards the tip, and then repeat that at least once or twice more depending on how many drips you want. And then using a small detail brush, you're going to connect those two with these slightly curved lines and just fill in your tip as much as you want. I ended up doing a third right towards the edge of my nail just to kind of give it a little bit more variance. And here it is with flash, so you can see just how sparkly that red polish is. I love that it just kind of has this like girly glam vibe. And you can easily turn these into slime nails by using a bright lime green, and bonus points for using a glow-in-the-dark topper on top of the lime green just to give it such a cool effect once it's in the dark. You can also reverse the design and have it come from your cuticles instead of your tips. I think using another sparkly red against a matte nude base color gives a lot of contrast and looks super chic. Next, I have this super cute and easy patchwork design that is just so adorable. This one is obviously focused more on my tip, kind of in like a chevron shape, but you can really do any kind of shapes that you want. So I'm going to start with a lime green, and using the polish brush, just paint a swipe across my nail. And then I go in with a purple polish to sort of fill in this little triangle shape on the other side. And I'm honestly not even worried about the colors being perfect because we're going to outline them in black. So I ended up doing 2 coats to make the colors really pop. And then once that's dry, I go in with a little striping brush and a black polish to just outline those colors. So this is why it didn't matter too much how neat you were with the initial color placement, because the black is really going to be the border. So once you're happy with your outlining, you're going to create these smaller stitches going along them, and it instantly transforms this mani into this super cute patchwork design. I am just so obsessed with it. This is a design I really don't see that often anymore, but honestly, it's just so fitting for this time of year. You can also just do it across your entire nail with as many shapes and colors as you want, and just really have fun with customizing this. Moving on to some ghost manis. This first one is a really simple swoopy ghost on your tip over a magnetic base, just for a little extra dimension. So the way that I do the velvet effect with magnetics is I have the magnet right next to my nail as I'm painting, and as soon as I finish, I immediately move the magnet to the other side of my nail just to shift that pigment around. I just think it looks super cool. It just has so much more dimension than having a solid base color, but you can also just use a sparkly black glitter just to create a little bit more sparkle and interest, because the ghost itself is kind of flat, but it's still cute. So I ended up doing 2 coats just to make sure it's fully opaque, and once that's dry, I go in with my white polish, and just using the polish brush itself, I just create the swoop on my tip and down the side a little bit for the ghost. So here is where you want to add your glow-in-the-dark topper if you want to make these ghosties glow. I somehow forgot to record that part, but once that's dry, you go in with a black polish and create these 2 little ovals for eyes and a dot for the mouth, and here it is in the dark. It is just so freaking cute. I just love this design so much. It's so much fun at night. The next ghost I have is this cute little trick-or-treating one. I think he's just so precious. So I just did this over a sheer base color just to switch it up a little bit, but you can obviously go in with whatever base color you want. But once it's dry, you're gonna go in with your white polish and a dotting tool and start painting your little ghosty. So I started by creating his head and then worked my way down to his little wispy ends, which didn't end up looking so wispy as they did scallopy, but either way, he's super cute, especially after I added his eyes and mouth. And I was gonna leave him as is, but I ended up adding a few more details just to make him a little bit more precious. But if you want a challenge, you can make this ghost so much tinier, and I especially love doing like a tiny print in this ghost pattern. I think it's just so adorable, especially just with their little eyes. Next we have this witchy ghost with a little bit of blush because of course we've got to make it cute. So this one is over an aura base, but you can again do any kind of base color. I already have a tutorial on how I created this aura look, but it's basically a radial gradient with a sheer color on the outside and your pop of color in the center. And just for a little sparkle, I added Mooncat's Moon Dust, and then I let that dry before painting on my ghost. So this time I'm starting from the bottom and working my way up. I don't prefer this way just because it's a little harder to get the top of the shape the way that I want it. It's just not as smooth, but whatever works for you. It's definitely doable, but I found that I needed a detail brush just to kind of fill out the top a little bit more. Then after that, we're going in with our small dotting tool in some black polish to create the eyes, which are a little bit like oval shapes, and then a smaller dot for the mouth. And then using that same dotting tool, I'm going in with some pink to add some blush to his little cheeks, just right underneath his eyes. And then cleaning that dotting tool to go in with white to create some more detail for the eyes, and he looks so cute and spooked. So lastly, we're creating a little witch hat, starting with the brim, which is just basically a line across the top, and then creating a triangle on top of that to start making that witch hat shape. I personally like when the hat is a little bit flopped over, but you can make it stick straight up if just drawing the triangle is easier for you. And I cannot get over how cute this ghost is. And the last ghosty design is this really simple one with some back glitters and a colorful French. Obviously, the back glitters are optional. You can also paint them if you don't have any glitters, or you can replace them with whatever kind of star glitters that you have. But I started by freehanding this French. I made it kind of swoopy, so this is definitely another one that doesn't have to be perfect. And then using a dotting tool, I created a dot and sort of dragged it down a little bit for that ghost shape where it kind of looks like he's flying across my nail. And I did use a detail brush to sort of clean up his shape a little bit. And then once he was dry, I went in with these 2 little dots, and he was just so cute. So instead of painting on bats, I decided to just use these bat glitters from the Holotaco Sophia collection, and using a dot of top coat, I went in and grabbed my bat and just stuck it onto my nail. And I'm trying to push down the wings a little bit, but as you can see, I don't really love the look of this. So I saw a tip on Reddit to sort of curve the bat glitters around a toothpick or cuticle stick. And even though the curve is slight, it's enough to make a difference so that it actually lays against the curve of your nail. I was so blown away by how well this worked. You can see I tested it on the very corner of my nail where there is more of a curve, and it looks so much better. So I added another bat glitter just because I was excited to do this again. This hack changed my life, and I love how this looks. Next up, I have a couple of pumpkin or jack-o'-lantern designs, and starting with this first one where it looks like he's lit from within. It is just so, so fun. I have had this idea in my mind and I'm so happy to see it turn out so well. So I'm going to be using a sparkly orange, obviously none other than Island Pea's pumpkin patch, which I've been loving this season, and a black polish to create the outline of the pumpkin. So I start with using a dotting tool and creating these dots across the top, where I'm trying to make the middle part the highest, but it didn't really work out that well. It's fine. I think it looked great in the end. And then I create some dots along the bottom of the pumpkin and then connected the two with a slightly curved line for the sides, and that's basically your outline. So once that's done, you're going to fill in the center with your sparkly orange polish. You don't want to paint the inside black because the orange is not going to show up well. So once that's dry, you're going to start making your jack-o'-lantern carving. So I start by creating a little negative space triangle and then filling in an upside down triangle in the middle and then repeating that on the other side so you have the eyes. And then for the mouth, I used my detail brush to clean up the edges a little bit and then went in to create the teeth, which are just these little squares on alternating sides. It is so simple, a little time consuming maybe if you care about the details. Obviously, I kind of made mine a little bit small, so the bigger that you make your pumpkin, the easier those details will be, but I am obsessed with how this looks. It really looks like the perfect jack-o'-lantern. I think it's also super cute if you were to reverse the colors so that the face is black and then the pumpkin base is that sparkly orange, which I basically start out by just creating a little lumpy blob. I'm not too worried about the shape because then I go in with my black polish and a detail brush to try and outline the edges a bit and then also bring in some of those lines from the center just to kind of create that like lumpy pumpkin shape. But I don't want to bring the lines too far down because it'll sort of interfere with the face. So you can definitely just leave this as is or add like a black French tip if you want just a classic fall pumpkin manicure. It's super chic. I love this so much. But obviously, if we are going to be making the little face, again, I think starting with a slightly larger pumpkin would be better. But you're going to go in with your detail brush and just create these little triangles for eyes. I try to make mine as small as I can at first just to get the shape and placement there. And if I can afford to make them bigger, then I will. But yeah, for this one, I kind of had to keep them relatively small again because I sort of made the pumpkin a little bit small relative to the size of my nail. So just keep that in mind. But yeah, I did my best to still create that little tooth-shaped mouth. So I start by creating the line across and then start bringing down one corner of the mouth, but I stop about halfway and then do a line vertically to sort of start carving out that little tooth shape. And then I connect the other side, so it's like this negative space shape that I'm filling in. And there is your little pumpkin. He is just so adorable, even if he only has one tooth. I love him so much. And finishing off with some cat designs, we have this cute little kitty half moon that I think is just so precious. So I'm starting with a sheer base again and starting by creating a half moon shape, which I think the easiest way is to start from the center and then work your way out. So I'm just using a dotting tool at first to kind of get the general shape, but then I will go in with a detail brush to sort of clean up the edges a little bit and also to create the little ears. So I think it looks best if you just create a straight line going up the side of the head and then bringing down another line for the triangle. I sort of messed up on that left ear, but I think the right ear looks a lot better. And I keep the ears empty so I can go in with a pink polish to fill them in. And then afterwards, I go in with a lime green and a small dotting tool to create the eyes. So I thought they kind of looked funny just being perfectly round. So I did try to make them a little bit more almond shape with a brush, but I guess it doesn't look too bad, but either way, once you're happy with the eyes, you're gonna go in back with the black polish and just create these 2 vertical lines down the center of the eyes for the pupils. And there is your super cute black kitty half moon. I love this design so much. I remember doing it so often years ago, especially. It's just such a cute one. Here's a slightly altered version of it where I have 2 kitties and added some tails, and I think that elevates the design so much. So it pretty much starts the same way as the last design, but I just have them in the corners of my nail instead of directly in the center. And I just paint these little curved lines sort of close to the heads to represent the tails. And I do the same steps as before, fill in the ears and create their eyes and top coat it, and it is just the perfect Halloween black cat design. I love this so much and I cannot wait to do a cute little mix and match. I have the idea of doing like that frog design but making it spooky. And here is the collage of pretty much everything that I shared in today's video, whether it was the actual tutorials or just some variations. Hopefully you enjoyed seeing some old photos that I shared from manis that I've done before. I know some of it might seem a little repetitive or they're just kind of slight differences in the designs, but I think that's what makes it so fun because you can really just customize it with your favorite colors or polishes. And honestly, just adding a little witch hat to anything makes it so cute and spooky. So that wraps up my nail art tutorials for Halloween. So hopefully you enjoyed these looks. Definitely let me know which one was your favorite or which design you're excited to try out, because obviously I cannot choose. I just think they are all super cute and fun to wear. But I guess if anything, maybe my most favorite design are like spider webs. I mean, obviously I am really feeling them as far as the fashion goes, but I think they're just so fun and unique. Like you can always change up the designs, whether they're like the French tips or just in the corners or even across the whole nail, not to mention doing like the different layering and color combination. I think they're just so fun. So that's probably one of my top ones. But then I also really love ghosts and cats. They're just so cute. So you'll have to let me know what kind of looks you love wearing for spooky season. But anyway, I hope you like this video. Make sure to leave a thumbs up if you do. And if you want to see some more spooky stuff, then I will see you on Friday. Bye.